This is CS952, Introduction to Web Technologies and Design. And when we last left off, we had created two absolute links, one to the Pencil Museum and one to the Wikipedia page on pencils. And we talked about how when we create an absolute link, which is a link that takes us away from our web page, that we use target equal to blank, which means that when someone clicks on the link, it actually opens up another tab in their web browser so that they still have the original page open that connects to your website. The other links that we created earlier were relative links. And when we say relative links, relative to the root directory, that folder that holds the whole universe of your website. So those were relative links. And we said those were relative links are like moving between different rooms in your house, whereas absolute links are like going out of your house and heading down the street. So what we want to do now, we're going to turn our attention to that little form in the middle of our web page. So I'm going to switch here to live view, and this is what I'm talking about. Right in the middle of our web page on our navigation bar, there is something that looks like you should be able to put in information and click and hit submit, and something should happen. And so what we have in the middle of our navigation bar is a classic web form. We're going to be visiting web forms again when we do the module just on tables and forms. But now this is kind of neat. We can dip our toes in the water of web forms because our Bootstrap navigation has a web form built right into it. So we don't have to figure out how to put one together. All the parts are already there. So let's switch back to code view. And I'm going to scroll on down. And I'm looking for this tag that says form. Okay? Now if I don't see it, I'm going to switch to design view here. Just a second. Come on, design view. Here we go. And you can see the layout in design view is not quite right. But if I click somewhere inside the form, I can see in my status bar that I clicked on an input that's inside of a div. But the important part is this tag that says form. So when we work with a web form, everything that's a part of that form needs to be contained inside of an opening and closing tag that says form. The form tag is a container that holds all the parts for our form. So let's switch back to code view. And here is our form, right? We can see we have an opening form tag. It says form class equals navbar form, and it's navbar left, meaning it's going to be on the left. And they give us a role of search, and then we have a closing form tag. It's right down there. And inside of our form tag, we've got an input, which is where we can type in whatever we want to do, whatever we're searching for. And then we have a button that's called submit. And that submit button is actually the thing that makes, when we click on it, actually submits the form. Let's click again on our form tag. Okay? When we click on our form tag, I've clicked in the status bar to highlight it just so you can see all that code highlighted. So when we click on the form tag, the property inspector shows us exactly the properties of a form tag. And this is why we like the property inspector so much. It's context sensitive. The property inspector shows us what we need to know for what we're working on. So if we look at our form tag, we can see the first item on our list here, kind of the big one, is action. Now the action determines what happens when we click on the submit button. Either the action is going to be a page that's on our website, or in a lot of cases the page that we're actually on. If the action is the same page that we're already on, then we don't go anywhere. And you've seen this, like you know how you fill out a form and then you click submit and then the page doesn't change, but the content says something like thank you for, filling out this form. Versus the other kind of form action where you go to a different place. So in this case, our action is going to be a Google search. So we need to type in the web address for Google. It's http://Google, google.com/search, because we're going specifically to the search part. Now, next we have our method, and method is very, very important. we are going to select a method of get. Now when we work with forms a little bit later, we're going to select a method of post. Discussing the difference between get and post is a little bit outside of this, the scope of this course, so just set it to get. We're going to set our target to blank. Remember, when we set target to blank, we get a new page, because we want to keep people on our existing website when they fill out the form and says, let's do a search on Google. We want them to get their results on a new page. Okay. Now we have one more interesting thing that we need to change. We need to change our input to Q. You're probably thinking, what? So I'm going to click here on my input type, okay? Where we have the name for our input, I'm going to type in Q. This is something that Google decided on. They've decided that the name of their search is going to be Q, probably short for query, all right? You just have to take my word for it and Google's word for it. Last thing we're going to do is we're going to click on our button. And right now, our button has a value of submit, okay? But we want to change that from submit to Google, okay? So I'm going to double click on the word submit and I'm going to type in Google, Google. So we're going to preview this in our web browser. I'm going to hit refresh and I'm going to click on the Save All button. Very important when we're working on our template to choose Save All. And as usual, Dreamweaver asks, do we want to update all the pages? We say yep. Close, and now let's preview this in Google Chrome. Okay, so search, and now instead of submit we just see Google. So I'm going to type in, so what are we going to search for? Let's search for mechanical pencils, and then we're going to type in Google, or we're going to click the Google button. And now look at what happens. Our search results open up in Google. You can see the term that we used to search for was passed to Google. We got a new page here all about mechanical pencils, and our original page has stayed open. All right, great. So that's all it took to turn our little search bar that we inherited as a part of the Bootstrap components and turn it into an actual working Google search bar.